I don't want to make this video. I really don't. But the amount of people asking me, begging me, demanding me to make this was overwhelming. People will sometimes just come into my Twitch chat and post the pregnant man emoji with a question mark. So I want you all to remember something. This is not some top 10 hottest Sonic characters type shit. You all actually asked for it. Hi guys, I'm Klidge, and I'm here today to answer a terrible question. What men in FGO can get pregnant? Now, as opposed to the previous video, which if you haven't checked out yet, please do because it'll give you so much more context as to why I'm doing this. This one will have significantly less people on it, but as a result, more hard evidence. By that, I mean that one of these characters is a man that was confirmed to be able to get pregnant. So, to start, let's talk basic biology. Human males cannot get pregnant. Shocker. It goes against the very fundamental basics of Homo sapien biology, and regardless of what Tumblr, Twitter, and Pixiv would have you believe, it is impossible. Now, you will notice that the phrasing I have chosen is rather specific, and that is intentional. Chaldea has figures in it that are non-human. It will primarily be these figures that we are talking about. With that said, I will lay down the rules much the same way that I did in the previous video. We are setting this in Chaldea, where a servant has a constant supply of magical energy and doesn't run the risk of demanifesting. Unlike the previous video though, I am going to add a caveat. In this particular scenario, the servant in question will be incarnated. To everybody in the previous video who commented that if they are incarnated it is possible, thank you for both reiterating something that was already mentioned in the video in an attempt to sound smart, and also thank you for ignoring the entire basis of that video, which was servants that didn't need to be incarnated. Incarnation, for the unaware, is the process of giving a servant a human body. This is possible through the expense of a large amount of magical energy, usually the Holy Grail, and allows the servant to live once again. This means that they gain any and all bodily functions they previously had, such as they need to eat and sleep, as well as the ability to reproduce. So, why is this so important for the boys but not so much for the girls? Primarily because having a servant closer to their real living self will make the process much simpler. So, what does this look like? Of the nearly 400 playable servants in FGO, only 8 fit the criteria. 3 are arguably cop-out answers, but I'll get into them shortly. These are in no particular order. Cavalier Daon, Mephistopheles, Merlin, Arjuna Alter, Sugitani, Nemo, Doman, and Oberon. Let's start with the 3 cop-outs. Daon, Sugitani, and Nemo. The key with all 3 of these is the capability of being a woman. Sugitani has a woman's body but a man's mind and actively attempts to retain themselves as a man, so I'm counting them as one here. I think the primary difference in the case of Sugitani as opposed to other cases of gender bends is that Sugitani is actively attempting to return to their original form of being a man. While the body remains physically female, they have retained a male mentality. This is in opposition to someone like Neza, who is also a man in a woman's body, who instead seems to have embraced becoming a woman. Daon has the ability to take the form of a biological woman if the need arises, but as they are also capable of being a man, they count for this list. Finally, Nemo has the Nemo series. Aspects of the whole that appear to be primarily female, save for the Marines, who are labeled as males. I'm going to quickly move through the Sugitani and Daon part of this because the explanation is pretty clean cut. They both have female reproductive parts, and so if they were incarnated could theoretically get pregnant. That leaves Nemo. What we know about Nemo and the Nemo series is that while he can make them individuals that fulfill certain jobs and have their own personalities, all of that information is fed back to the main body at some point. He is also able to reabsorb the Nemo series within himself should the need to do so arise. So with that said, you are now left with a certain question. If you were to get Nemo Nurse knocked up and then the main Nemo body reabsorbs her into himself, what happens? Well, either the baby is tied directly to Nemo Nurse, and as she manifests and demanifests, it goes along with her. Nemo himself would retain the pregnancy within himself in this case, even if there are no physical signs of it. Alternatively, Nemo takes on that physical characteristic and begins fostering the child within himself. The third alternative is that when Nemo Nurse is reabsorbed, the next time she appears, the child will have been banished to the back rooms. Hard to say, but theoretically it's a 2 out of 3 scenario here. Let's move on to the other ones whose reasonings, save for one, essentially boils down to extreme levels of magic and possible precedents. Mephistopheles is a demon. In Fate in particular, he is a homunculus modeled after a demon. In the Tale of Faust, Mephisto acts as an intermediary between the titular Faust and the devil. Now, as anyone who grew up in the Bible Belt knows, If we are to take the almighty power of Satan with the request that we want to get Mephistopheles pregnant in exchange for our mortal soul, then it is possible to alter Mephisto in a way that he could actually have your child. The loose nature as to what a homunculus in Fate is actually capable of, combined with the awesome might of Satan, make it so that this union could bear fruit. Mind you, whatever that kid will look like will be a monkey's paw situation,
and your mortal soul will be confined to hell and thrown into the lake of fire on Judgment Day.
But you got into that scrawny clown snatch, so one must imagine you happy. Arjuna Alter is one that is fairly simple to explain, and it comes entirely down to the nature of his being. He is an amalgamation of every single Indian deity rolled into the vessel that is the man Arjuna. Indian deities are notorious for having alternative forms to themselves that are a different aspect of who they are. Now, as we have not necessarily seen a different aspect to Arjuna Alter, I will shelve that idea for now. However, the might and powers of so many deities does make it so that the idea that he could alter himself in such a way for the sake of the master is not impossible. Would he actually do this? Probably not. Could he, though? Probably. This particular Arjuna Alter is the one from Lost Belt 3 rather than the one that we summon, though the one we summon does have quite the powerful deity within him as well. Merlin is rather self-explanatory. Merlin, as he appears in Fate, is a master of what I can only describe as troll magic. He is capable of shape-shifting as well as a variety of different powerful spells, currently sitting as the candidate to be the next Grand Caster. We all know in Fate canon that Merlin is the one who gave Artoria a cock so she could have kids, only for this to be used against her in the creation of Mordred. It's also theorized that the Merlin of our world and the servant we know as Proto-Merlin are in fact the same person using a disguise. Aspects of this theory come about due to Proto-Merlin's own lines regarding her identity. She is just as cagey about who she actually is as Phoenix Wright, and that may not just be because she is a possible beast candidate. Regardless of whether this theory is actually true, or if Proto-Merlin is the self-proclaimed little sister of the Schlong Sorcerer, the depths of Merlin's magic should theoretically allow for this union to happen. In fact, I believe it is also within the realm of reasoning for this to happen due to the very nature of Merlin as an incubus. Rather, a half-incubus. I don't know who's gonna actually me about a video on mpreg, but I know you're out there. Freak. Merlin, in the Arthurian legend, is a horny devil, and on more than one occasion, his magic wand led him to places that he wouldn't go with a gun. As such, if this particular horny wizard was in the mood for man-meat to an elevated family-making level, then he could, in theory, make it happen. The last of these speculative characters is a bit of an unusual one for some people. Ashia Doman. The portrayal of Doman in FGO is one of the most strange takes on a character like himself, and yet the evidence in support of his placement in this animated sin of a video is somewhat compelling. Doman is, weirdly enough, a femme fatale character in Fate. He is gender unknown and ascribed the qualities of a cat. He is an incredibly talented on-Myoto magician, and, here's the kicker, an incredibly talented shapeshifter. Part of the belief for this, at least in FGO and from a handful of less reliable sources in the real world, is that Doman may be a Bakeneko or half Bakeneko. Bakeneko are similar to their more well-known relatives, the Nekomata, with the key difference being that Bakeneko have a single tail, while Nekomata became a yokai when their tails split after having lived a certain amount of time. I addressed this in a previous video, but there is evidence to suggest that Doman was originally going to lean much more into the Bakeneko motif, with art of this cat monkhood existing as well as descriptions in his character profile hinting at it. Additionally, this alter ego form of Doman helps to encapsulate an aspect of the Bakeneko that is relevant to this video. See, the Bakeneko were known to take the guises of prostitutes, adding another layer of seduction and shapeshifting. But just because you bang a man doesn't mean you will get him pregnant. No, this is where the final aspect comes into play. Itzpapalotl, one of the 3 spirit cores of Doman's spirit form. Itzpapalotl is a deity from Aztec myth and governed over the land of Tamawankang, the paradise where infants went if they died. This area is also where the very first humans were created. Further, Itzpapalotl has an entire myth about shapeshifting in order to seduce men. Oh, and I neglected to mention that her original form is that of a massive obsidian butterfly, or sometimes a giant bone butterfly. My point with this is that being a core part of Doman's fate portrayal combined with all of the other factors makes it possible. I'm sure he could find a way if he thought it could be of benefit to him. Now for the final servant. One I don't even have to theorize about. The only servant that has been confirmed to be able to get pregnant as a male. Oberon. They released an actual example of mpreg the same day that I threatened to make this video, solidifying that I would be pestered over and over to create this abomination. This technically happens in the Rioverse telling of events, but also kind of not, so if you want to close your eyes, cover your ears, and go la 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 about it, then sure. What apparently happened was that Oberon laid eggs on the brain of the Master of Chaldea, and that the egg was actually a holy grail. Supposedly, this was done to help the Master de-stress. The writers take it a step further and have the player ask if the egg itself was fertilized, to which Oberon coyly says not to complicate things. The implication of this being, A, Oberon has a cloaca and is capable of laying eggs, and B, these eggs are possibly able to be fertilized. All of this is to say that if you want to hide from the theories that I have put forth because they are based on speculation, then you must accept the fact that if no one else, they have clarified Oberon can get pregnant. I'm done. If you're curious about this like I am, when I questioned people in my chat about why they wanted this information so bad, I was told that it was primarily for fanfiction, and that the people asking were primarily female. So I guess this video is dedicated to the ladies in the klidge community. Never ask me for anything again. Subscribe, I guess. I have a Patreon. Keep your chin up. Peace out.
Yeah, interesting. But I'm stupid.